Hello, this is Keith Aul, and welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be about how we could take a JSON formatted string within your data set and extract or explode the individual line items from that JSON string into multiple rows using Python. So basically, this is our data set, and one column has a JSON formatted string, as you can see here. Now, within this string, basically this data set is a purchase order data set, and you have an ordered ID, order date, and of course we have an items here. Now, per order ID, you're going to have multiple purchase items from that order, and those individual items are formatted as a JSON string. So let's go over here to get an idea what I mean. Now, for a purchase order, you're definitely going to have a lot of different information. You're going to have the person or party that it was sold to, their address, information, etc., the date of sale, and their order ID. And within that purchase order, you're going to have one or multiple items that you purchased, okay? And in this particular instance, I took the first record from our data set and I extracted basically the three items that are attached to that order ID. And so each line item has your item ID, product name, quantity, and price per unit. Okay, so let's take this a step further. We have this nested item. Again, this is just taken from here. This JSON formatted string, I'm going to show you that it's a lot easier to read. That's why I broke it out like this. So as you can see, the JSON formatted string is surrounded by square brackets. And within the square brackets, you're going to have multiple key value pairs, which in Python equals a dictionary. So within the square brackets, you have multiple opening and closing curly braces. And within the curly braces, you have the individual line items. This particular order ID has three line items. Okay, and again, it's broken out by ID, product name, quantity, and price per unit in this case. Okay, and what we want to do is instead of having one record or one row with the order ID and having a JSON formatted string, we want to extract or explode these individual line items into individual rows. So in this particular case, we want to have three individual rows for order ID 0001. And why three rows is because this particular order ID has three line items. These other order IDs may have five line items, or one, or two, whatever it may be. And so in the end is we want to be able to obviously create all individual rows for each line item for each order ID. And this will make it better for data analysis and in a better structured tabular format. So this will be the end result of it. So now let's go to Python and see how we could do this. And what I'm using is the Jupyter Notebooks IDE to run my Python scripts. And I'm going to type in, the first thing that we need to do is we need to include some libraries, modules in here to be able to run the code. So we're going to import pandas. And then the other library that we're going to use is the JSON library. And if you don't know what JSON stands for, it stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, so we're going to run this line here, I'm going to create a new cell to run, type in a new cell of script. I type in B as in boy, and it creates a new cell for you. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a variable to hold the path of our file that we're going to read into our pandas. And then you can call this anything that you want. And we're gonna I'm just gonna type in the name. Give me a second. Okay, here's the file name, and then let's go ahead and let's read it into a data frame. You could call this anything that you want, and I'm going to use the pandas.read CSV function, and I'm going to pass it in the path, basically the path and the file name that we want to read in. And then let's go ahead and view what we just read in. Okay, so as you can see, it read in the file that we did. So you have the order ID, order date, and then the items is going to be our JSON string. So from here, after we read it in, we want to be able to transform this items column, okay, into a Python dictionary, okay, and what this will do, it apply this Python function that we're going to be using. It's going to be it'll apply another function to each element, okay, in the items column, and it converts this JSON string into a Python dictionary. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and we do that by overriding the existing items column. Okay, let's do this. Items. Okay, and then that's going to equal to the dictionary, and then items. And we're going to use the apply function, and we're going to pass in another function from the JSON library, which is called json.loads. Okay, again, what this does, it uses the pandas apply function, and we're going to pass in another function to tell the apply function to convert this column, okay, a JSON string, into a pandas dictionary. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this again. Again, what this does, it applies this first, and then it applies the result back to the items column and overwrites it. So press enter. Okay, and visually, okay, it doesn't look like it did anything, but it actually did. Okay, in the background, pandas now recognizes this column as a pandas dictionary. So once we do that step, our next step is to basically transform this items column, which contains a directory, a Python's directory, which consists of key value pairs, into separate rows. Remember, go back to this. This is what we want to do. We want to explode or these items or expand these items into separate rows in our data frame. So let's go back here. And to do that, so we do that because we want to ensure each item, okay, for the order ID gets its own row. And you'll see why in a second while we do this. But let's go ahead and do this. We're going to overwrite the data frame. And we're going to use explode ID. Okay, now you're going to see what just happened. Let's go back to the original data frame. The original data frame has one row for each order, and within that order, it has this JSON string attached to it. So you have your indexes 0, 1, 2, 3. It does that sequentially for every single row. Now, after we utilize the explode function, what it does is now you see that order 00001, which now has 3 rows attached to it because that order has 3 line items in it. So that's what I mean by we want to extract the items and make them their own row. And it'll also attach it to the same index for that particular order ID. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, now instead of you having 1,000 rows in your data set or data frame, now you're going to have 3,000, over 3,000 rows, because each order ID has multiple line items. And now since the line items are now individual rows, that's why your number of rows increased. Okay, now once we have this, once we explode the items, now we want to normalize it. Now, what does that mean? Normalization from pandas means that you're going to flatten the nested JSON structures into a tabular format. Okay, each row, okay, in your items column is a dictionary rather than a string, and it allows you to access individual key value pairs now. Okay, so now we're going to normalize this. So let's do that, and you'll see what this actually does. We're going to create a separate data frame now. Okay, equals to our pandas PD JSON underscore normalize, and we're going to pass it in our pandas data frame, and we're going to access the items column. Okay, let's go ahead, and I did a typo. Okay, so again, the result of this, you're going to see now, it creates a new data frame that only consists of the key value pairs for that data frame. Meaning, let's go back to Excel here. Let's go back to this purchase order. First order has 3 line items, and within there it has these key value pairs. Okay, you have these individual columns basically now. Okay, now let's go back to here. And so what it does, it extracted for each order ID and gave them a new index, okay, for all the line items within a specific order ID. Okay, now we have a sequential new data frame, index starting from 0, so forth, on through all the rows in our exploded data frame, which is this, okay? Now what we want to do is we want to merge this new data frame with this data frame here. Okay, now in order to do that, okay, now what merge does, and we're going to use the concat function, merge expands the JSON data back with the original data frame, and then we're going to drop the original items column, which consists of the JSON formatted string. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. And we're going to create a new result data frame equal to pandas.concat. And we're going to pass in two data frames, the original data frame or the exploded data frame, and we're going to concatenate or join that with our line items data frame. But first we're going to drop the items column that has the JSON formatted string. Close that out. Okay, now we're going to drop that, okay? And then we're going to pass in the other data frame. Okay. And then we're going to specify access equal 1. And what access equal 1 does is it merges the two data frames that we just did. We have two arguments here. Well, actually 3 arguments or 3 parameters. And we're telling it to merge it based upon the columns. And what that will do is create a new data frame that has all the columns of the exploded data frame minus the items column. And we're going to put these new column names to the right of that. And you'll see that in a second. But first of all, I want to forewarn you that this line of code is going to create an error. And I did this on purpose so you see what happens here. Okay, and let's scroll back down here, and it says re-indexing only valid with uniquely valid index objects. Now, what does that mean? Let's go back to the exploded data frame, which is this one here. It has individual rows per order ID and their items basically within that order ID. And since this first order has 3 line items, it's going to create 3 new rows for that order ID, as you can see here. But it keeps the index as 0 for all those order IDs for that unique order ID. Now, this typically happens when you're trying to concatenate data frames that have duplicate index values, which is this. This has duplicate index values. The key issue here is that Pandas requires the index to be unique when performing re-indexing operations. And this will ensure that the indices are reassigned sequentially instead of retaining the duplicates. If you look at this data frame, which only consists of the individual line items, you could see the sequential order of this. Okay, so in order to fix this and make a new data frame with a sequential order of indexing beginning at 1 and increasing it by 1 for every single row. We need to basically reset the index on this. And we could do that by simply, after we drop the column, we want to reset the index. And we pass in drop equal true. And now when we rerun this, you could see what just happened there. It created the new data frame. This was the old data frame right here, the order ID and order date minus the items column, which we dropped over here, and we concatenated the line items data frame to that. Remember, access equal 1 means that we're going to merge these two data frames based on the columns. And that's what that means. If you had access equals 0, that means rows. But it created this new data frame with the individual line items for each one, and created a new row for each line item per order ID. Okay, and it re-indexed it. So indexing starts from 0 and goes on through the end. So now you have, of this new data frame, that it exploded out the individual line items. And now you have 3,029 rows. If we go back up here to this individual line item data frame, it matches there. And if we go back up to here, before we actually extracted the JSON data from the items column, you also have 3,029 rows. So this tutorial, hopefully this gave you an idea how, when you as a data analyst receive data from whatever source that you have, sometimes it'll come in a JSON formatted string for certain columns or all columns. And this is a way that you can extract the JSON formatted string into individual rows, so they can have, so in your data analysis, it creates a tabular format for your data, and it allows you to analyze the data much easier. I want to thank you for stopping by today. You have a great day. Remember to subscribe to this channel, and as always, please like and share this video so other people that want to learn this information will have access to it. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye now.